Greetings, friends! Here we are talking about equations and inequalities with rational numbers. I guess we should define some things first. Rational number, well, what the heck is that? Rational number, it's simply a number that can be written of the form A over B. So it's a number that can be written as a ratio or a fraction. And included in the rational numbers are even numbers like 8 over 2, which is 4. Heck, 4 is a rational number because 4 can be written over 1. Any number that can be written as a fraction is a rational number. So what are we trying to do with this little lesson here? We're trying to solve equations that have rational numbers embedded within them. And we have experience because we've done problems that look like this. 5x, 3 over 5x, plus 2 equals 12. We know how to solve this. I'm just going to give you a different method by which you could solve this. And here it is. If ever you have a fraction embedded in an equation or an inequality, or if you have multiple fractions embedded in an equation or an inequality, like this one here has a fraction in it, you can multiply every term by the LCD. So the least common denominator present in the equation. Well, there's only one denominator present in this equation. So if you took this equation and multiplied everything by 5, the least common denominator, you'd be able to get an equation without any fractions. And everybody loves that because they're easier to solve. So let's go ahead and if we multiply 5 times this first idea, we've got 5 over 1, so it's 15, 5 times 3 over 5 with an x. And then 5 times 2 is 10, and then 5 times 12 is 60. Well, 15 over 5 works out nicely for us. 3x and 10 equals 60. And then you can solve from there because that's easy to solve. This seems like it might not be too bad. Let's make it a little more complicated in the next example. Okay, here's a pretty intimidating looking equation. It's got a bunch of fractions in it. But the strategy when you have an equation with a lot of fractions is to multiply through by the LCD. So I guess we've got to discuss what a possible LCD is for these denominators present. This fraction, or this equation, has denominators 2, 6, and 4. If we find the LCM between 2, 6, and 4, we'll have the LCM, which is the LCD, that we'll have to multiply through. Looking at the two biggest numbers present for the denominator, we can see that the prime factorization of 4 is 2 times 2, and the prime factorization of 6 is 2 times 3. Going through the process here, we can know that 12 is the LCM, because obviously this was just 6 and 4, but 2 will also go into 12. So 12 is the number we're going to multiply all of these terms by. Let's do that. 12 times the first idea, negative 5 over 6, and then 12 times the second idea, and then finally 12 times the last idea. This is going to be cool because it's going to get rid of all the fractions that are present in our equation. 12 over 2, and lastly 36 over 4. 60 divided by 6 is 10 with an x, and 6, and that's equal to 9. Now it becomes an equation that we're very used to solving. Oops, got ahead of myself. I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides. There we have it. And we're going to be left with that 3. And we find that x is being multiplied by 10. That's negative, so divide by a 10. That's negative. And you have x is equal to 3 over 10 negative. Beautiful. So the hard part is just figuring out the LCM, identifying it as 12, multiplying through, and then it becomes easy. It becomes an equation that's very easy to work with. Let's see if you can try one. Okie dokie, you've got these two equations to try and solve for the given variable. In the first, I hope it's obvious what the least common denominator is. Make sure you multiply that least common denominator by every single term and then solve the resulting equation. The second equation that you have to try here has 3 terms in it as well, and notice they are all fractions. What you have to do is inspect the denominators, each denominator, and see if you can figure out the least common denominator by using the process of finding the LCM. Take that least common denominator, multiply every single term, those 3 terms underlined in red, and then you'll have a resulting equation that has no fractions that will be easier to solve. Good luck. I'll check for these tomorrow.